I never really planned on spending my nights babysitting a coal mine, but life's got that funny way of steering you where you never thought you'd be. My name's Cal Granger, and back in 2017, when this whole mess went down, I was 34, broke, and 2 years divorced. I had a busted Chevy, a pile of debts, and not much else going for me besides a willingness to take the kind of jobs other folks didn't want. Which is how I ended up working night shift admin for Black Ridge Mine, a nowhere town coal operation tucked deep in the hills outside Clayton Hollow, West Virginia. You've probably never heard of Clayton Hollow, and that's for the better. It's one of those places where folks mind their business, churches outnumber restaurants, and the hills sit so close around town they feel like shoulders pressing in. When I first moved there, this local old-timer at the diner told me that mountains held on to things, whatever the hell that meant. I laughed him off because I figured everything out here was just superstition and moonshine stories. Looking back, I should have paid more attention. Black Ridge Mine had been around since the 1940s, though the company that owned it had changed hands more times than I could count. My gig was simple, or at least it was supposed to be. I sat in the admin office from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., processed paperwork, logged inventory from the day shift, tracked equipment, and made sure the mine stayed locked down and empty after hours. At night, that whole place turned into a metal skeleton, quiet, cold, and hollow. But let me tell you something up front. The mine was never really empty. Not at night. Not ever.
My first couple weeks were quiet. Long, boring nights, bad instant coffee, and the constant hum of the ventilation fans echoing out from the mine entrance like some huge metal lung. Every night, around 11 p.m., I had to walk the perimeter, check the gates, and make sure no idiots or drunk teenagers wandered in. Nobody ever did, not until everything went sideways. My first hint that something wasn't right came on a Tuesday night. It was around 2:15 a.m. I remember because I just heated up one of those plastic-wrapped meatloafs that taste like cafeteria sadness. I was sitting at my old steel desk, half asleep, when I heard something echo up through the ventilation shaft that ran behind the office. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought it was water dripping. Mine's always got that dampness, especially old ones like Black Ridge. But the taps were too rhythmic. 3 taps, a pause, 3 more. My skin prickled a bit, but I tried to shrug it off. Then I heard it again, louder. Tap, tap, tap. Like somebody knocking metal against metal way down in the dark. I muttered to myself, probably just pipes expanding, even though I damn well knew pipes don't tap in patterns. Still, nothing much happened after that. I finished my shift, drove back to my room above the hardware store, and forgot about it after a couple of cheap beers. But over the next few nights, the tapping kept coming back. Always around the same time. Always that same pattern. Enough so that I finally mentioned it to Buck, the daytime foreman. Buck was a big guy, beard down to his chest, the kind of man who smelled like diesel and Mountain Dew. When I told him, he didn't look surprised, didn't even blink. "Don't worry about it, Cal," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "Old mine like this, she makes all sorts of noises. Hell, half the tunnels haven't been touched in decades." "Yeah, but this is rhythmic, like someone's down there tapping." He gave me this long look, not scared, not worried, just thoughtful. Then he shrugged. "Mountain shifts," he said simply. I wanted to ask what the hell that meant, but he walked off.
Things didn't get truly weird until late November. Nights up in the hills get cold as hell that time of year. That particular night, the wind had been howling hard enough to shake the windows. Snow was coming. You could smell it in the air. At around 1:30 a.m., the motion alarm tripped. The alarm panel on the wall blinked red over Shaft 12, lower access gate. Now here's the problem. Shaft 12 had been sealed off for years. It was an old, partially collapsed section of the mine. Nobody went down there, not even maintenance crews. The gate was always padlocked, and even if someone broke in, the shaft itself was blocked off about 100 yards in. So of course my stomach sank when I saw the blinking light. I grabbed my flashlight, radio, and the keys, then stepped out into the cold. The full moon threw a pale glow across the mine yard, turning the heavy equipment into hulking silhouettes. The wind whistled through the fencing like something alive. My breath fogged the air as I made my way past the idle conveyor belts and darkened storage sheds. The further I got from the main office, the quieter it became. Less wind, less humming machinery, more stillness. The entrance to Shaft 12 sat on the far side of the yard, tucked between two rocky slopes. A heavy metal door marked "Entry Closed" was chained and padlocked. Only that night, the chain was hanging loose, and the padlock lay on the ground, open, like someone had snapped it in half. Except there were no marks on it, no tool scratches, nothing. I swallowed hard. Cal, don't be an idiot. Probably old lock froze, split open. That happens. But even I didn't buy it. My radio crackled suddenly, making me jump. But there was no voice, just static. "Hello? Anyone on frequency?" I asked. Nothing.
The tunnel ahead of me yawned like a black throat. I raised my flashlight and stepped inside. The air changed immediately. Colder, heavier, damp earth smell mixed with old iron. As I walked deeper, the tapping started again. Tap, tap, tap. Except this time, it was coming from inside the shaft itself. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, because apparently I enjoy making terrible decisions. Tapping stopped. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. I stepped forward slowly, each footstep crunching on the gravel. When I rounded the first bend, I saw something that damn near stopped my heart. A shape, a human shape, standing at the far end of the tunnel, motionless, facing me. My light barely reached it, but I could make out a silhouette, maybe 6 feet tall, maybe thin, maybe wearing something. It was too dark to see details. "Hey!" I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. "This area is closed. You can't be in here." The figure didn't move. Not an inch. I took one more step, raising my flashlight higher. "Sir, I need you to." The figure slipped sideways into the wall. Not walked, not ducked, just slid like smoke vanishing through stone. I swear to you, I ain't making that up. My chest froze, my legs locked, goosebumps crawled up my arms. That's when the tapping started again, but now it was inches behind me. I didn't turn around. I bolted, full sprint, out of the shaft, across the yard, through the snow-scented air, and back into the admin office, slamming the door behind me and locking it like a terrified kid. My hands shook so hard I fumbled the keys. When I finally picked up the phone to call Buck, I stopped. What was I gonna say? "Hey, boss, someone ghosted through a wall in Shaft 12? I sat all night staring at the door, flinching at every creak of the building. When daylight came, I didn't say a damn word to anyone.
I figured maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing, or maybe fatigue had finally melted my brain. But 3 nights later, the power flickered twice. Then the tapping returned, louder, faster. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Next morning, instead of going straight home, I joined a few miners at the diner. I didn't know them well, but I recognized a couple faces. They were loud, tired, soot-stained men, the kind who laughed to stop themselves from breaking. While they talked, I worked up the nerve to ask, "Hey fellas, weird question. You ever hear anything odd down in Shaft 12 back in the day?" The table went quiet immediately. 3 men exchanged glances. One, Eddie Booth, leaned back in his chair and rubbed his chin.
"Who told you about Shaft 12? He asked. "Nobody. Motion alarm went off, and you went down there at night?" He interrupted, eyes wide. I nodded. Eddie cursed under his breath. The other guy shifted uncomfortably. "Look, Cal," Eddie said, lowering his voice. "That shaft ain't just closed because of a collapse." "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then said quietly, 4 men died down there in '78. Collapse trapped them. They dug for 3 days, found only 2 bodies. "What about the other 2? "Nobody knows," Eddie said. "Some folks think they got buried deeper. Others—" He stopped, taking a slow sip of coffee. "Others say they wandered off in the dark. Old tunnels down there go way back. Some ain't even on maps." Another miner chimed in. "People heard knocking for days after the rescue shut down." My blood turned cold. "Knocking?" I asked. "Yeah," Eddie said, like they didn't know they were dead yet. The men all avoided each other's eyes, each of them suddenly fascinated with their plates. That's when I realized it. What I'd heard wasn't pipes. The events of the next night are the ones burned permanently into my memory, the ones that still keep me from sleeping right. A snowstorm blew through hard, wind slamming against the building, snow piling up fast enough to bury tire tracks in minutes. Buck radioed around 7, saying the road was closed till morning. No one was coming in. No one was leaving. Lucky me. Around 10:30 p.m., the power flickered again. Then again. Then the whole building went dark. Emergency backup lights switched on, dim red bulbs that made the room look like some kind of hellish submarine. The tapping started instantly. Not from the shaft, not from the vents, from inside the office walls. I held my flashlight tight enough to crack it. "Okay," I whispered to nobody. "This ain't funny anymore." Then, through the red glow, I saw movement, a shadow, tall, thin, passing behind the frosted glass window of the office door. I froze. The knob rattled, slowly, deliberately, like someone testing it. Then came the voices, low, raspy, indistinguishable, like someone whispering through water. I backed away, heartbeat hammering in my throat. The lights flickered again, then died completely. Darkness swallowed me. My flashlight sputtered on, shaking in my hand. And that's when I saw them. 2 figures standing in the far corner of the office, covered in coal dust, limbs twisted like they hadn't walked upright in years. Their eyes were hollow sockets, their jaws slack, their skin gray and sunken like dried leather stretched too tight. They stared at me, not moving, not blinking. Then one lifted a hand, a mangled, coal-blackened hand, and tapped the wall thrice. Tap, tap, tap. I staggered backwards, hit the desk, and knocked over my chair. Stay back!" I shouted, flashlight trembling. But they didn't move. Not physically. Their shadows did. The shadows detached from their feet, stretching across the floor like spilled ink slipping toward me. That broke whatever was left of my nerves. I ran. I don't even remember the transition. One second I was in the office, the next I was outside, snow slashing my face, breath burning my lungs. The storm was so thick I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me, but I didn't care. I ran across the yard, past the mine entrance, past the equipment, toward the main road. Behind me, faint through the wind, I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Following me, chasing me, begging me to stop. I didn't. I kept running until my legs gave out.
I collapsed near the roadside, gasping, shaking uncontrollably. I sat there for what felt like hours until a snowplow driver found me at dawn, half frozen and babbling nonsense. They took me to the hospital. Buck visited once, but didn't stay long. His face said everything. This wasn't the first time someone ran from Black Ridge screaming. I quit the next day. Didn't even go back for my stuff.
It's been years since that night, but I still hear the tapping sometimes, usually around 2 a.m. I've moved states twice, changed jobs, tried to drown the memories in booze and long work days, but it doesn't help, because I know the truth now. Those men, the ones trapped in Shaft 12, they weren't lost. They weren't buried. They were waiting. Still are. The mine wasn't empty then, and it ain't empty now. Some nights I check the news to see if anything's happened at Black Ridge. Last year, the mine shut down permanently. Safety violations, the report said. Funny how they never mentioned the tapping. Funny how they never mentioned the missing workers. Funny how they never mentioned the shadow caught on a grainy security camera still making the rounds online. Tall, thin, facing the lens, waiting for someone to open the gate again. And every time I hear a tap in my walls or a whisper in the dark, I remember that night. The storm, the shadows, the coal-black eyes. And I know one thing for damn sure. Some places hold on to things, and some things never stop trying to get out.